XVI es el mayor poeta hindú vivo y uno de los pioneros de la poesía contemporánea en lengua malaya. También es crítico, académico, editor, traductor y guionista. Ha publicado 27 libros de poesía, 22 de ensayo y prosa, 16 de traducciones. Sus poemas han sido traducidos en 17 idiomas. Ha traducido al malayo a poetas esenciales. Satchidanandan ha recibido 16 premios literarios.
വിക്ക് വിക്ക് വൈകല്യമല്ല, ഒരു സംസാര രീതിയാണ്. വാക്കിനും അർത്ഥത്തിനുമിടയ്ക്ക് വരുന്ന ചില മൗനങ്ങളെയാണ് നാം വിക്ക് എന്ന് വിളിക്കുന്നത്. വാക്കിനും പ്രവൃത്തിക്കുമിടയ്ക്കുള്ള മൗനങ്ങളെ മുടന്ത് എന്ന് വിളിക്കും പോലെ തന്നെ. ഭാഷയ്ക്ക് മുമ്പാണോ വിക്കുണ്ടായത് അതോ ഭാഷയ്ക്ക് ശേഷമോ? ഭാഷയുടെ ഒരു പ്രാദേശിക വ്യതിയാനമാണോ വിക്ക് അതോ സ്വയം ഒരു ഭാഷയോ?
These questions make the linguists stammer. Each time we stammer, we are offering a sacrifice to the god of meanings. When a whole people stammer, stammer becomes their mother tongue, just as it is with us now. God too must have stammered when he created man. That's why each of man's words carries several meanings. That's why everything he utters, from his prayers to his commands, stammers like poetry.
Well, poetry definitely has an element of thought. It is extremely difficult to separate emotion and intellect when it comes to poetry. It is very difficult to say whether you are expressing a new thought or whether you are expressing an emotion, because they are intermingled in the expression of poetry. And as for education, education sometimes can help and sometimes can harm a poet too, if it is a negative kind of education, because it may fill you with a lot of prejudices and established notions and status quo beliefs and a kind of accepted common sense notions. And the duty of a poet is often to fight some of these established notions about life and about poetry. But education can also help, especially I would say a kind of self-education. When you read great literature, you read poetry, you read philosophy, you read other kinds of knowledge texts, and they keep inspiring you, and you learn new things, and you also learn new ways of looking at life by reading, and also new ways of expressions. When you read a poet like say Paul Celan or César Vallejo, you know how poetry can be expressed in a very different kind of way. So I think that kind of learning is very important for a poet. That is, a poet first of all should have an instinct for poetry. He should be born as a poet, definitely, and secondly he has to train himself, and reading and knowledge, they do have a role in the training of a poet. I would say translation has a role. I would also say that the observation of life, of human beings and of nature also has a role in shaping a poet.
The box. When I was born, my parents shut me up in a box and threw me into the sea. The waves carried me to this island. The box grew along with me. I carried like a man walking in a coffin. This part of the world has neither trees nor rivers. They had so kindly made a hole in the lid for me to breathe, through which sometimes I catch a glimpse of the sky, sometimes I hear someone sing, sometimes the scent of roses blooming somewhere thrills my nose. Then I dream that someday a star will slither in through the hole, free me from this box, and carry me from this island to the sunny world outside. Then I will stretch my limbs and walk like men and talk like men.
In fact, it is part of the traditional faith that souls migrate and you pass through several births, several lives before you attain salvation. But I think for a poet, he lives several lives in a single life. In fact, one of the collections of my poetry is called So Many Births. I mean, you are being reborn again and again. When a poet writes a new poem, it is like being reborn because there is a new experience. You are trying to find a form of expression for that new experience, and you are being born in language again. And so, for a poet, I don't think there is any need to believe in the traditional kind of transmigration of the soul, because the poet is continuously being reborn, renewing himself, looking at the world with fresh eyes, trying to say new things and trying to invent ways of saying things which are quite fresh and full of surprise, joy and poetic excitement.
Self. My mother didn't believe when in 1945 I appeared to her in a dream and told her I would be born to her the following year. My father recognized me as soon as he saw the mole below my left thumb. But mother believed to the very end that someone else had been born to her masquerading as me. Father and I pleaded with her, but dreams cannot be relied on. She went on waiting for that promised son till she died. Only when she was reborn as my daughter did she admit it had really been me. But by then, I had begun to doubt it was someone else's heart that was beating within my body. One day, I will retrieve my heart, my language too.
In fact, poetry is very close to dreams in many ways. Because like in dreams, suddenly we find ourselves in many different locales, many different places, and in many different times. And the images in poetry have also a kind of intimate relationship with the images of dreams. In fact, at least in one phase of my poetry, surrealism had a great kind of influence. And you will find a lot of surrealistic images in my poetry of that particular period. And always, poetry, like dreams, also expresses more than your conscious mind, also your the subconscious and unconscious minds. And in that way too, I think dreams and poems are extremely related. And we can also do things that we don't really do in real life in poetry. Like the example he said about talking to the dead. Maybe we are not talking to the dead in the literal sense in our life, but I think we always have a conversation with our fathers and forefathers and with the whole tradition of human race. And also in poetry, you can talk to nature.
The mad have no caste nor religion. They transcend gender, live outside ideologies. We do not deserve their innocence. Their language is not of dreams, but of another reality. Their love is moonlight. It overflows on the full moon day. Looking up, they see gods we have never heard of. They are shaking their wings when we fancy they are shrugging their shoulders. They hold, even flies have souls, and the green god of grasshoppers leaps upon thin legs. At times they see trees bleed, hear lions roar from the streets. At times they watch heaven gleaming in a kitten's eyes, just as we do. But they alone can hear hands sing in a chorus. While patting the air, they are taming a cyclone over the Mediterranean. With their heavy tread, they stop a volcano from erupting. They have another measure of time. Our century is their second. 20 seconds and they reach Christ. 6 more, they are with the Buddha. In a single day, they reach the Big Bang at the beginning. They go on walking restless, for their earth is boiling still. The mad are not mad like us.